And over all these virtues, put on love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. Let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, and be thankful. Let the message of Christ dwell among you richly, singing to God with gratitude in your hearts. And whatever you do, whether in word or deed, do it all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him.
Welcome to Encounter Life. I am Joni Richey. My husband, Pastor Richey, and I are your hosts for this episode. Today we are excited to have Brett and Donia Steele with us in the studio. We have worked alongside of these dear friends on many occasions over the last few years. I can honestly say the Steeles are some of the most faithful and hardworking servants in the work and the ministry of the church that we have ever known. We are excited for them to share their story with all of our listeners. It is our desire that you will be both inspired and encouraged today. We strive to provide you with reliable, consistent, and trustworthy Christian content here at Encounter Life, and I am confident that all of our listeners are going to enjoy getting to know our dear friends. Thank you for spending a few minutes with us today. Now, let's encounter life together.
I am so happy to welcome Brett and Donia Steele to the studio today. Thanks for being here. How are you both doing?
Doing great. Thank you for having us today.
Wonderful.
I hope, and Brett is kind of distant there, his wonderful may or may not be wonderful, I don't know. This is way outside his comfort zone, I promise you. Brett would much rather be out working on something, building or tearing apart or working on a project, but sitting behind a microphone is just way outside of his comfort zone. I want to encourage all of you, both of you, to relax and enjoy this moment. We've got some great folks that listen to Encounter Life, and I promise you they're going to be friendly toward you. They really, really will be. I have been looking forward to this. We have been together during a lot of ministry over the last few years. We have even enjoyed some downtime together at events like the summer staff retreat. But this is a bit different. Today, our Encounter Life listeners get a chance to hear your story, and it is one of faithfulness and trusting the Lord that I'm sure will be an encouragement to everyone. I want to take a few opening moments to talk about your family. I don't know if Donia is probably going to lead this, and Brett will jump in. I don't know who's going to take the lead on that, but talk to us about the Steele family.
The Steele family. Well, Brett and we've been married for 12 years now. We have 3 amazing kids. Loveland, she's 11. Dietrich is 7. And then Briella, our surprise baby, our surprise COVID baby, we tell her. She's our miracle. She is 5 years old.
Go on. You've been together how many years?
12.
12
years.
That's interesting. I'm curious about Brett and Donia, the couple. You two, and we'll get into this maybe more in a few minutes. You come from vastly different backgrounds. How did you two find each other?
Only God.
Yes, absolutely.
I guess you would say, I don't know. I was at a point in life where I said, God, I don't need a man. I am good on my own. And I had just told my parents that. And about 3 weeks later, I walked into a concert, looked over, and there was Brett.
Oh, okay. Hold that thought for just a minute. And we're going to come back to Brett's thoughts there, and we'll put it all together. Donia, you have had the opportunity to travel and live all over the U.S. Talk to us about that.
So I grew up as a pastor's kid. My parents did inner city ministry for children my whole life. So I spent our summers were in the back of a sidewalk Sunday school truck. We would drive into the inner city. The side of the truck was cut out and it would come down as a stage. Yep. And we would do kid programs all over the country. That's how I grew up, was just in full-time ministry. And I was the minority wherever we went.
From where to where?
So New York City. My dad, Metro Ministries in New York City. He was one of the founding people there that started in the inner city there. And then we branched and moved into LA. So I was in Los Angeles. We were in Michigan. We traveled all through the Midwest. I've been to every state except for Alaska and Hawaii. And those are on my list. Everywhere else my dad had taken us and we've done ministry in.
And I don't know that we need to explore this deeply, but did you have a favorite spot? Some place where you thought, man, I could spend the rest of my life here? No?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I like different parts of everything. I like the seasons when we were up in like Connecticut area. I loved the weather here when we lived in Florida. California was amazing, but I hated the earthquakes. So it was one of those.
Okay.
I never knew what you were going to get, but I knew it was going to be something special everywhere we lived.
Now we're going to shift to Brett. Brett, get in there close to the mic. And you grew up working on a farm. Yes?
Yes, I did.
Where?
In northern Missouri. The town was only like 530 some people. There was 300 in the school. Kindergarten through 12th grade. The same school that my grandparents and my dad went to.
So generationally, you never got out of, what's the county? What
Adair County.
Adair County. You never left the county. You were just there.
Yes.
Yes. And now listen, I want our listeners to catch this. We've got a woman that grew up as a child and lived as an adult all over America, going from place to place to place in many different environments and backgrounds. And here is a guy who, northern Missouri, population a few hundred, never leaving the county on a farm. What was the farm? What did you farm, Brett?
We had row crops, which was corn and beans, and then we had beef cows.
Beef cows. And I will tell you, Brett knows more about beef cows than what you want to know. We have talked. I grew up on and around the farms of Indiana, and Brett has seen farm life up close and personal, and you loved it. Yes.
Yes.
It suited you.
It did. It was something I'd always been around, and I didn't know there was really anything different.
Wow.
He struggles sometimes now living in Florida that he doesn't have enough land. He needs more space sometimes.
Okay, so you're at a concert and Donia looks over. Donia, was it love at first sight?
For me, yes and no. I was a little hesitant because I was afraid of what was happening, but I had never felt that way about anybody before. So it was scary. But what do you think, Brett?
Yeah.
It was for me.
Well, now wait. So who looked first? I mean, how did this happen? You don't just look across a concert venue and go, "Oh, there's the guy I want to marry."
I was there with my friends.
And I was there with mine. And
the thing was the friends they knew me and they knew her. They were mutual friends.
Ah, okay.
But I didn't know her.
And I didn't know him. And it was kind of crazy.
This was not planned that you would get together.
Absolutely not. No.
Neither one of us were.
But you look over and you see this beautiful girl and you go, wow.
And I said, who's that? They're like, you don't know Donia? And I'm like, I don't.
But I'm going to get to know her better.
Yeah.
And so kind of a magic moment. How did what did that first date look like? How?
We started talking and then I wouldn't meet up with him.
Yeah.
So probably a week or two, he kept calling me.
And
You went
texting her.
home to your mom.
I went
Way
home
to
to my
go.
mom and my sister, and I told them, listen, I met this girl, and she is most definitely the one.
Wow.
And they went, what?
What?
And I pushed back and said, you're crazy. And so
That's-
I made him wait a little bit where I wouldn't meet up with him. We texted and we talked nonstop.
I worked nights, and I worked from 5 to 1 in the morning, and I would text her while I was working.
Tried to
And-
keep me up all
and
night.
wake her up. And, and God already knew.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fun. Okay. I'd like to take a look now, and this is kind of an individual story for both of you. But I like to always ask our guests about your, what I call the come to Jesus moment. That moment in your life where you recognized, look, I can't do this on my own. I'm a sinner in need of a Savior. Jesus is the only Savior of sinners. Let's start with Donia. Donia, you grew up as a PK, but that can, and let me jump ahead, that can present some difficulty with this.
Absolutely.
Talk
can.
to me about that.
I did. I grew up, and one thing that my parents always taught us is that it has to be an individual thing, that choice for you. And when I accepted Jesus and I knew I wanted something different, and I pushed that I always wanted something different as I grew up and I had my own family. And when my brother passed away in 2004, I got mad at God.
Yeah.
So I struggled through that. Sorry if I get a little teary, but so I kind of went through that, like, not rebellious completely, but I kind of stepped away from wanting to be part of church
Yeah.
because I was hurt, until I realized that it wasn't something that I did, that God was being mean to me by taking him away. But I had to process through that because there was that grief and that, who do you blame? Was it the church? We were in ministry when I lost my brother. He was in ministry. So I struggled with, like, how could this happen to
Well,
something like that?
Sure.
So it took a little bit for me to do that.
Now, Brett, were you a part of her life at that time?
No.
No, we did not know each other yet. The crazy and ironic part about this is that Brett had met my brother before my brother had passed away, but Brett and I had never met each other.
Okay.
We had mutual friends, and so Brett had met him but never met me.
Yeah. So your come to Jesus moment, how did that, tell me, how old, where, how, what?
Well, when I was about 8 years old was the first time that I remember going to the altar and just completely realizing that this is just something that it wasn't just church anymore.
Mm-hmm.
When I was little, I went to kids' church. I raised my hand,
Right.
salvation 100 times,
Right.
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I remember that I was at a kids' camp when I was 8 years old. And it was like this transformation of I felt God just
Yeah.
wrap his arms around me. And that was that moment that it was like, it changed everything for
Kids
me.
camp. We have to plug kids
But I
camp.
was at kids camp, at an Assembly of God kids camp, sitting there on the altar, 8 years old. And I knew that forever my life was changed.
What state were you in?
In Iowa.
Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
Iowa kids camp. Yeah. Kids camp. Listeners, if you are in a church someplace, get your kids to kids camp. It is transformational. Now, you had this moment, though, of hesitation. How did you come back around from that? Was there this point where you said, Lord, I'm with you to the finish?
Oh, yeah. Well, and I didn't hesitate. I've been in ministry, and I kept growing up with my parents. And then after, even as an adult, I chose to still stay in ministry stuff. And then after my brother had passed away, I never quit ministry. I just backed off, I guess. I was hurt and kind of wondering what was going on, trying to figure out where do I fit in now. And then God kind of just grabbed a hold of me and said, I'm not finished with you yet.
Let's go.
there was a reason that this happened, but I got more for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. Brett, come to Jesus moment. At what point does a farm kid from Missouri realize, wait a minute, I need Jesus in my life? How did that happen for you?
I would say that my mom and dad, they ran around together and did stuff with our family. So we didn't really go to church until I was probably like 10 or 11 years old. My mom got saved and changed her whole life.
There it is.
And then she started going to church, and then I would go with her off and on. My dad was one of the parents who was like, hey, I was forced to go. If you don't want to go, you don't have to.
Okay.
But I wanted to because it was something different.
Mm-hmm.
It was a little small church, and the pastor was our part of our family on the other side, on my mom's side. And it was something different, something I never witnessed. I got to see my mom get saved, and she spoke in tongues and all that. And I had no idea what it was. She cried, and I was like, Mom, are you okay? Are you okay?
Mom, are you okay?
And I didn't understand, so it was a lot for someone who had never witnessed anything like that, and then like Donia said, as her brother passed, I lost my dad at a young age. I think I was like 21 years old. And I pretty much had kind of quit going to church. I went off and on with kids that I grew up with because there's a handful that went to like youth and stuff like that. And I went, but I never really stayed plugged into it.
Okay.
So I knew of God, but I didn't live for God. I lived in the world, so it was a lot of different things that I dealt with. And like she said, the hurt of seeing my mom change her whole life for God, and being with one man her whole life, and then he took him.
Right.
I was angry.
Yep.
And it was hard to work through. And at 20 years old, it puts you in a dark place when you don't know there's any other way really to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I went down some pretty bad roads.
Okay.
And stayed on them for quite a long time. And then I met my wife. And my dad was not a godly man, but he was a manly man.
Okay.
Then I got to meet her dad, who was a godly man. And I got to see the other side of it. So I got to see that part.
Yeah.
And see what a godly man was. And that's when I wanted to be more. And I got to be around it. I got to help with kids programs. I got to see all this stuff. And I was like, look at what this man does for kids that he has no attachment to whatsoever.
Yeah.
Oh, it's only God that can do that. And I wanted to be a part of that. And I remember when I finally got to talk to him, I said, I got some questions to ask. He said, I know you want to ask my daughter to marry you. And I said, I do. And I said, is that okay? And he said, listen, this is all I got to say. My daughter is one of the strongest women I've ever met. And if she says yes, that's up to her. But what I ask of you is one thing. And I said, okay, what's that? And I'm sitting here in my mind like, what's he going to tell me? He says, as long as you raise my grandchildren in a church, you have my blessing.
Wow.
And I said, that's it. And he said, that's it. I said, okay. So from then on, we got married. We started to have children, and we started going to different churches, like where they worked. And there was a couple other pastors that we knew. We went to their church, and nothing just seemed to fit for me. Like I just couldn't feel the draw. And then we prayed about coming to Florida because they were talking about retiring. And the funny part is we said, don't come down here and get us into ministry because we've never had a break. Right. And that's the funny part. That was our plan.
We're going to move to Florida and go to the beach every weekend.
Because I'd never really even seen the ocean or the beach until we moved here. So it was something completely new for me, out of the ordinary, leaving my whole family. Never done that before in my life. And just packing up and going. See ya. So it was a lot for me. But we prayed, and I told her, I said, listen, as long as I have you and our kids, I don't care where we go. And we went. And the come to Jesus for me moment was we were at Coleman with Pastor Derek, and 2 services went by, and it just kept saying, you need to come up here. You need to come up here. You need to come up here. And in my mind, I just kept saying, oh, I'll go next time. I'll go next time. Well, the 3rd service, he preached at the end. He said, I don't know who this is for, but don't miss this time. And I looked at her and I said, it's time to go. And she says, where are you going? I said, up front. And she goes, what? I said, it's time. So I got up and I walked. And I went up there, and Pastor Derek asked me, do you have God in your heart? And I said, I don't. And he said, okay. And wow. I was standing there and I was like, I don't feel any different. I don't feel any different. Mm-hmm. And God told me, you know what you got to do. Show me you want this. And I'm like, thinking to myself, show you I want what? And then I knew, because I was raised that if you went to the altar and you raised your hands, you're giving it all to him and you let him have it, everything. Yeah. I didn't raise my hands. And then after he said, show me you want it. And I raised my hands, and the snap of your fingers, it was gone. I cussed and drank and smoked.
Manly man.
And everything. And still to this day, I can honestly tell you, in 7 years, I have not said a cuss word in 7 years.
Way to go.
God took it all.
Way to go. Come to Jesus moment. And in a moment, one encounter, we say it a lot around here, one encounter with Jesus can change everything. You poked at something there that I want to go back and revisit. It didn't occur to me until I heard you say it in this setting. And I hear people say it all the time. I've heard it all my life. And something just popped in me when you said about your dad, God took him. And I was angry and I didn't understand. And you had all these feelings that God took my dad. And I wonder sometimes if it's just wording, and sometimes our words betray us, and really how we get and understand things. But for our listeners, I believe we've had here at Encounter Church, we've had some death in the last month and some really close people. But I don't believe that God took any of them. I believe that he receives them.
Absolutely.
And I want our listeners to get this, that God is not a God that's going around taking people, and that for believers, it's a reception. It's not an abduction. It's a reception that he is waiting. The Bible says that Stephen looked up and saw Jesus standing, waiting. Before he would breathe his last, he had this vision. And God receives us at that moment. It's not a defeat. It's a finish line victory. And for Donia, the loss of your dad, there was a reception. It was a victory finish. You're across the finish line. Mm-hmm. Paul says, I've run the race. I finished. I fought the good fight. All right, so you got us to Florida. So you're in Florida at Encounter Church. As you reflect upon that journey that brought the Steeles to Florida, you started in Coleman at the Coleman Church. Then we moved to a tent and spent a number of years in a tent. I know for our listeners, some of them, if they've never seen that, or if they're not local here, we actually did. We had church year-round in a tent and had hundreds of people showing up in the tent. Now we're all working together in this beautiful, brand-new facility here in Wildwood. Tell us your thoughts as not just your Encounter Church journey, but your life journey. Think back to that concert and spotting each other and love and family and the journey. Sitting here, what's your thoughts in this building? Did you ever envision this? Dream of it? I don't know. What's
yes
your thoughts?
And no. It's surreal sometimes. I sit and think that our kids are going to be able to tell stories about how they went to church in a tent, in a big circus tent, that hurricanes were coming and they were out there holding the poles down, and how exciting. And now it's just it's even retraining them of what a church building is. Like now that we're in a building, they're not used to that. They don't know what a sanctuary looks like or how we treat it, because they were really little in Coleman. And then they were in a tent
grew up in
3 years in a tent.
Yeah, very formative years.
Right. And so now it's like, this is God's house, and it's a whole different look.
Yeah. Can you imagine they will, over time, they'll think, oh, yeah, well, let's go to church in a tent, and they'll think that's the way it ought to be. That's it.
I think about my parents, like a tent was a revival.
Right.
Like that's what you thought is that if they're going to old school revivals. When I was growing up, if you were going to a tent, it was because it was a revival.
It's temporary.
But this was a lifestyle for us. This was every week.
And Brett, for you, the tent was a lot of work.
Yes.
Yeah. Give our listeners some idea of what kind of work was involved for you with a tent.
Well, anytime we got big wind or rain, we had to pull stakes and re-hammer them into the ground 3 feet down, all the way around the tent, ratchet strap it back down, make sure the poles didn't blow over and it collapse. So it's funny that we were just talking about this the other day, how there was the storm that came in on Saturday, and I said, man, it's so nice not to be in the tent anymore, because I was usually the first one that did the first leg of staying in the tent on the stage and waiting for the rain to stop.
The all-nighters.
The all-nighter.
Yeah.
So, it's nice. But then there's still days I miss the tent.
I don't miss
the atmosphere of the tent. There's certain things, there's certain aspects of it that will definitely be missed, but
I'm not there. There's not much but I know that feeling's out there, and I don't know that there's a right or wrong feeling. But
right.
Brett, I'd like for you to slide in a little closer to the mic and talk to us about you and I last October went to El Salvador on partnering with Thirst Initiative, a nonprofit out of South Florida. Steve Hull was the director. A team of guys came together from all over the U.S., and we went to El Salvador to take a look at the work of Thirst Initiative. Let me kind of hold this for a second. Thirst Initiative is a nonprofit that deals with their thrust of their ministry is providing sustainable, long-term sustainable water, clean, pure water for the people of Central America, specifically Nicaragua and now most recently El Salvador. I'd like for you to talk with us about El Salvador for a minute. Your impressions of that trip. Go.
I would say it's very life-changing for me. To come from what I came from to see how much worse you could possibly live.
Mm.
We lived in a place where we only had one wood stove in the middle of the house that heated the whole home. And they live with dirt floors and no fresh water.
Right.
I was thinking, wow, that's unbelievable that they could even survive.
Was that your first trip out of country?
Yes.
Ooh, wow. So not only, you didn't go out of country on a vacation, you went out of country on a missions trip.
Yes.
I want you to describe for me one of the communities we went to on that hillside and that trip down the hill to the river. Talk to me about that, and they tell our listeners about that.
So we got to go down the hill of, I would say, half paved roads that the slopes felt like A-frame homes.
Yes.
One way down was hard enough, but to walk back up and stay at a straight line walk is not very easy. And then they also go down there and carry water back.
Yeah.
I don't know how it's possible.
And the water that they out of that river was
disgusting.
Absolutely filthy. We saw a video of kids jumping in and swimming and bathing in that river just 100 yards upstream, and now you're taking a 5-gallon Home Depot bucket and
carrying it
full of filthy, putrid water.
Yeah.
Back up to a shanty home on the side of a mountain.
Yeah.
You were walking up that hill, and I saw you stop, and the rest of the team was going on, and you stopped, and I got to you, and I'll let our audience know that I was the old man on the team. And you looked over your shoulder and you said, "Grab a hold of my shoulder." And I did. And you helped the old man walk the rest of the way up that hill. And I thank you for doing that. I don't know how I could have gotten up the hill without you to get back to the truck. And as difficult as that was for me, there were elderly women that made that trip every day to carry water, filthy water, back up to their houses. I look forward to the day when I know that community has a well with clean water and they won't have to make that trip anymore. You ready to go back to El Salvador?
I am.
Yeah. I wish our audience could have seen the body English there. Donia, what was it like for you knowing that your husband was gone on this trip?
I think it was an exciting opportunity for him, but I knew it was going to be very eye-opening. When we met, Brett had never been anywhere. So since we moved to Florida, God has just opened doors for him that have been crazy. Trips to New York. He travels with Pastor Derek and does ministry stuff that he never had. It's always nerve-wracking when you got your other half somewhere else, especially in another country. You're like, don't leave me here with these 3 kids.
I was heading there.
I need you. I need you. And you realize what a team you are.
Yep.
When your other half isn't there.
All right. What did you see when this man that you love with all of your heart, when he came home from El Salvador, what did you see?
His heart was broken for them. He came home and, he told our kids how ungrateful they were. And he wanted to remind them of everything that they have.
But he came home and all he kept saying was, we have to get outside of these walls. We can't just talk it. We got to go do it. We have a mission field right here in our backyard that's starving. And we're just, and that's all he kept saying is, I don't know what we can do. I don't know what I got to do, but I got to do something. And he was walking around the house collecting flashlights and different things that he knew that they could use there. And that was like, what can I do? What can I do?
Yeah. Yeah. I've been on a lot of trips. I've led them, out of country trips over the years. This one was different. The October trip was different. It broke me in a way that I had never, ever experienced before. You were on a good trip, Brett. You really were. And I'm grateful to have had the time to spend with you and serve the Lord together with you in that place. Donia, your job, let's now pull back home. Your job is the executive assistant to Pastor Derek West here at Encounter Church. What is that like?
That's a podcast all in its own, let me tell you, Pastor Richey.
Pastor Derek has a great and unique and interesting story, but you have been partnering with that vision all along. And your father served as the children's pastor at Coleman in the beginning. You've been along this ride all along. If there's somebody listening that I should have my question formatted better, that wants to serve in a church, I guess what I'm looking for here is this ministry. We call it administration and an administrative assistant, but really it's a ministry of helps. The Bible talks about that as a spiritual gift, this gift of help, to be able to understand and see a need before it happens. Talk to us about that. Brett has some input, maybe. I don't know.
Brett's tapping me. I don't know. Definitely. You have to be, I don't know, like I say all the time in ministry, for me, I don't care what anybody else thinks or sees that I'm doing, as long as God sees it.
Yeah.
So to me, I just try to do whatever I can to make pastor's life easier. He doesn't need to worry about the little things, so that he can focus on the big thing, because God's got such a huge calling on his life. But my calling is just as important. It's just different.
Yeah. Yeah. There are no big and little in the kingdom of God. There absolutely is no big or little in the kingdom of God. Being a part of the team and knowing your spot and fulfilling it with integrity.
Absolutely.
None of us know what tomorrow will bring, but if you could look into the future, the next 5 or 10 years for the Steele family, where do you see it going? What would you dream of for your family in the next 5 or 10 years?
Land. I know Brett's saying we want land to run and play.
Okay.
Ministry. I want to see us outside of more outreach, more.
Yeah.
We're going to so many different places, and I see doors opening for more opportunity, for more souls brought into the kingdom. And it's not just in this building,
right,
but out there in the street.
Yeah. Yep. Back in El Salvador. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. What would you offer our listeners? What would be your heartfelt advice for young parents, families that might be listening today, as a step back and a big overview of your life and experience together in ministry and marriage, family? If you could put a nugget out there for young families, what would it be?
Balance.
Balance.
Keep a balance between family and church,
Okay.
and consistent at home or in the public.
Okay.
Yep. I would say, make sure that you do your first job God called you to do is take care of your kids where they don't get left astray while you're helping everybody else's.
Wow. Okay. Donia, you look like you've got something percolating there. You know?
Oh, there's always something percolating there. I just absolutely believe that strongly, that you have to be consistent in that. I have so many friends that grow up in church that aren't in church now because of parents or other people that set that standard that it's forced on somebody instead of teaching them to have their own relationship with God. So my ultimate goal and prayer is that my kids will have their own relationship with God. They'll find their path, whatever that leads them, whatever that is, as long as they see that my path is the same.
Yeah.
No matter who's watching.
Yeah. Wow. I cannot thank you both enough for taking time to join us here at Encounter Life. I want to thank you for your honesty and your vulnerability, which really is transparent in this moment. It's probably a good thing we don't have cameras yet in the podcast, because this has been a very visual moment if you'd been here in the studio with us. It has been our pleasure hearing your story very much. God bless you.
It is always great to hear others share about their amazing journey, their adventure living the abundant life promised by Jesus. We are so blessed to have had Brett and Donia with us today. I hope that you were likewise blessed and encouraged. Let me encourage you to please drop a quick comment in the review or comment space provided on your podcast platform. We love hearing from our listeners. Thank you so much. We love you all. If you are a part of Encounter Church, please let Brett and Donia know how much you enjoyed hearing their story. And lastly, always remember, one encounter with Jesus can change everything.